I'm now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is former Notre Dame legend and current Brown University safeties coach Tom Zbikowski. But most importantly, Tom, you are a fellow proud graduate of Buffalo Grove High School. True story. When someone asks me where I'm from and I say Buffalo Grove and I see a little bit of that look on their face, but if I know they're a sports fan, I tell them that's where Tom Zbikowski went to high school. So thank you for literally putting Buffalo Grove on the map.
Bisons, I appreciate it. I
Man, it's
appreciate it. If it wasn't for
it's
my brother, I wanted to go to Mount Carmel. If we're being honest,
that would have been
I was.
devastating for a lot of
I
people.
know. My brother was baseball. My brother was football. My brother was a lot more uh, friends and enjoying him. Not enjoying himself as a partier, but just enjoying life, not trying to be. I was on that different type of mindset where can I go compete against the best? Where can I be on the best? Let's do this. My mother gave me the best piece of advice I've probably gotten from her was go change the culture. You can go be a part of something that's already been established, or you can go ahead and change the culture that's around you. And I took heed of that advice, and really, that's kind of happy that I did what I did at Buffalo Grove, and then, really, if you look at my track record, continue to do that for the places that I've been. So appreciate my mom, appreciate my brother for paving the way for me for Buffalo Grove, because I definitely would not have changed it for anything to see the amount of excitement that 2001 and 2002 brought to the school and the local community.
It was definitely a big part of our childhood growing up for sure. And I got a ton I want to get to with you. Let's start with what you're currently doing, trying to change the culture at Brown. You started your coaching career a couple years ago at Western Michigan in 2022, more of a behind the scenes type thing, and now you're getting into your second season at Brown, coaching safeties there. You boxed professionally, you were a firefighter. Why coaching?
Um, I left the game on terms that, I got unfinished business to do in this profession and in this sport. Um, I was told by the majority of my coaches that I played for that coaching is something I should look into. Um, I knew I was going to get into it. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying it right now. Um, just you hear a lot of stories. It's a tough profession. There ain't no stability. There for sure ain't no stability. Um, but if you're good at it and work hard at it, you should move up the ranks, relatively quickly. I enjoy the impact on the kids, the impact on the young men that are, um, especially at Brown. I mean, you're talking about high achieving, high character individuals that um, the NFL would probably be a worse option for what they have going in their lives. So to be around that type of kid, that type of intelligence, and um, it's enjoyable. It makes it enjoyable when you can have adult conversations with kids when they're that mature um, and they're that motivated in life. It makes it worth it.
You were just on the road recruiting. You remember what it was like to be a big time recruit. We were talking before we came on. It's unique what you have to manage in terms of the summer. Like what it looks like a summer workflow. Because unlike at FBS programs where they're there and they're putting in work and they got different workout plans. You got kids that are like doing internships on Wall
Yeah,
Street and stuff
right.
like that. How unique is that recruiting experience at Brown compared to the type of experience you had?
It's um, it's definitely different because you gotta have it starts with a GPA, a certain GPA. If you're not in that 3.5 ballpark, there's no point in really even looking at your film. It's a waste of time at that point because I know how we get Brown gets 50 to 55,000 applications a year for 1,700 spots. You know what I mean? So they're serious about who they let in here. And our head coach, James Perry, was a Brown alumni, won an Ivy League championship here, loves the school. You know, he has that enthusiasm that's contagious for the pride he has for the school, and that's for good reason because we're ranked in the top 10 for, you know, how much a college kid enjoys his or her experience. And we have like a 96% graduation rate. So as tough as it is to get in here, you'll be given the resources to graduate. And they enjoy going here because we have an open curriculum here. So none of the kids got to take prerequisites. So it is really, you want a double major, you can start off, you can be as narrow as you want in your education as soon as you get here. I know I want to be business, econ, and Spanish. Our next 4 years, that's all you got to be taking, and everything outside of that is pass fail. So it's like you're actually given the opportunity to develop your own education, your own plan for how you're going to be educated. Unlike, you know, you go to Notre Dame, you're going to have to take theology classes, you're going to have to take philosophy classes, you're going to take classes that end up having you finishing with a 1.75 your first semester in college, and then just just absolutely miserable because now you feel stupid, you feel dumb, you know, your ego takes a hit that it shouldn't really take because you're not dumb, you're just not enjoying the courses you're taking at the moment. So you spend the next 4 years getting 3.0s and stuff, but still only finish with like a 2.7 GPA because of that first semester. It's like, why? Just because you've always done that, I don't get what that has to do. So, you know, that selling point really for kids that are smart, that have high grades, high academic standards. It's pretty enticing for them to know that they'll be able to build their own program.
Yeah, I remember having a 2.8 my first semester in Indiana.
Yeah, right.
It was awful.
1.75. I had no D's, I had no F's, but I literally had C minuses across the board, just barely scraped by in every class. Like, I don't want to be reading Plato right now. Like, I get, you know what I mean? I'm not really that interested in rehashing Homer's Odyssey.
Yeah, very fair, very fair. Let's go back to your recruitment because you were a two-way star who also played special teams. Plus, you're one of the top amateur boxers, you know, in the country. Urban Meyer was the first person to recruit you back when he was at Bowling Green, and then Northwestern was the first big-time offer that you got. Nebraska told you that, you know, you could have been the next Eric Crouch and, you know, Tommy Frazier, like, you know, Scott Frost, all those different, you know, mobile quarterbacks, because obviously that's what you were a star in at Buffalo Grove. Navy tells you can do the boxing thing as well. Like, you're this guy that you know, you wore number 9 for Jim McMahon, which, by the way, I'm repping some Jim McMahon.
I was going to mention, I love it.
Little hat tip.
I love it.
What was that process like for you when you had all these different options and people telling you could do all these different things?
It was enjoyable at first, then it becomes a nuisance, and then it becomes a really tough decision because I did have aspirations of making it to the NFL. I never thought I'd actually play in the NFL, but I did want to at least see what it was like, see a training camp or something, just see, you know, be around, put myself in position to be around the best players and then see what would happen after that. So I always loved punt returning, so I know I wanted to give myself a chance to punt return, which playing quarterback would not have done that. I really wanted to hit people, you know, and then but as soon as I went and played, my first year was redshirting was really, really tough because I really enjoyed playing quarterback. I loved having the ball in my hands every play. And if you look at the progression of my quarterback play, I ran a lot my senior year because then I was 185 pounds. I was a 10-5 100-meter guy, so it wasn't too hard to reverse out and hit either corner. And then we're optioning the corner, and that guy has no chance of tackling me. So this is. But if you saw my sophomore tape, you saw my junior tape, I was a highly effective passer. Um, I was a better passer than Eric Crouch. I had better touch. I took my quarterback play seriously. I would go to Maine South every Sunday to work with this guy, Charlie Bliss, who was a Chicago fireman, and would put on camps, weekend camps for free, never charged nobody. It was kind of more invite only, but this was every Sunday in the winter was quarterback camp. Um, every summer I'd go to Bishop Delegan, which was at Wheaton College, would be like a 2 or 3 day, throw it 1,000 times a day. Then I would go to the Manning's Passing Academy in Louisiana in July. My father and I once went to Michigan to work with a guy quarterback stuff that we didn't bring a football. There was no football involved. We really drove there and only did drops, under center drops for an hour. This was after my sophomore year, going into my junior. Scratch that, after my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, because I was going to be the varsity quarterback as a sophomore. And really, the boxing training, more than anything, I think, more than any other position, helps with quarterback play. A lot of my footwork, a lot of making people miss, boxing is what made me so hard to bring down in the backfield. It was so hard to get a sack on me because of all the training that I had done up to that point. So it was tough, man. It really was tough to make that final decision. Most people don't take me seriously when I tell them I put Nebraska, Iowa, and Notre Dame in a hat and picked out of a hat, just left it up to fate. That's where I was with my decision, because I love Tommy Frazier. I love Nebraska football. It was it was 2001, so if you paid attention at all in the 90s of what Nebraska was, it would be hard not to go there. And then being from where we're from, to turn down an offer to play at Notre Dame was like sacrilegious. Like, it's just not a thing. And to turn down the opportunity to play on every single weekend a nationally televised game, if you got a product that you're trying to put out there, it's tough to turn that down when you're going to be watched every single week.
Wait a minute. So I didn't know this. You literally picked out of a hat between Nebraska,
Yeah.
Iowa, and Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You have this start at Notre Dame where you burst onto the scene in 05. And it's unfortunate that on a day when you make arguably the best play that Notre Dame has had in the 21st century, that punt return that you have against USC, everybody knows what happens later that day with the Bush push. And I'll never forget being at the house of one of my buddies whose family knew your family. And we're celebrating just like you did on the back end in the end zone when Matt Leinart has that fumble. And that, of course, sets up the Bush push that everybody knows. It's an iconic college football play. Looking back on that day 20 years later, what do you remember most about that?
The build up beforehand, it was palpable. Like, you could feel, fans were already coming in for a Saturday game. Traffic was heavy by Wednesday. Like, it was all right. All games are big at Notre Dame, but this is different. This is one that's gonna live for the ages. So be prepared, get ready. You like those type of challenges, especially a lot of the people in my class all played in that U.S. Army All-American game. I think there was like 7 or 8 of us. So we played Reggie Bush. We knew what Reggie and Lendale and Reggie were the 2 running backs for the West team. We were on the East team, right? So we knew very well how good Reggie Bush was. I know a lot of times as veterans in the NFL or older guys in college, when you hear about a freshman or a rookie coming up, it's like, we've heard this before. It's not, there's better players, trust us. And then you see Reggie Bush in action. You're like, oh, well, maybe there's not. And we all collectively, we wanted to beat them. We wanted to, we knew we were going to give our best performance. They had a lot of talent, and things went there. They just had things rolling. They had the right momentum because they had a lot of games like that. It wasn't like all their games were blowouts. They had a lot of games where they had to come together and win late.
I've always
a wild
wondered.
experience just because you never the crowd noise. The crowd noise was different. Like there was no replay boards there at the time. There was no live music. It really was whether you can entertain the crowd or not. So I mean, it was special to hear that type of noise, that type of raucous, that type of volume come from what notoriously is a quieter stadium.
I've always wondered, what would have happened if the Bush push if it had just been, the Leinart fumble and you guys take over, and Notre Dame's trajectory is obviously a lot different because you guys probably would have had a really good chance to play for a national title against Texas, and the game of the century, USC Texas, probably doesn't happen. What do you think would have happened if you guys had gotten that opportunity to face Vince Young in Texas?
Probably would have got our ass kicked. Because Ohio State kicked their ass. Ohio State put up 700 yards of offense against us. So, I mean, we probably would have got our ass kicked.
That's a fair answer, man. That's a fair answer.
Right. We didn't beat, they were the number 5. There's no way we're going to beat the number 1 team if we can't beat the number 4 or 5 team. So, I mean, it's just how it is.
Okay, but after that 05 season, I remember you still, you were at that point a household name in the sport. And I remember you came back to Buffalo Grove I think you were seeing Rich Roberts, maybe you see Coach Stout or North or one of those guys or something like that. And you came back with Samardzija one time, and it was the talk of the school. Like the school, everybody was just buzzing, like trying to sneak a peek in the locker room, that area and stuff like that. Like, oh, maybe they're going to stick around or something. Give me your best Samardzija story that's maybe appropriate for a PG-13 audience.
Oh man. Ain't none of them gonna be PG-13. We just, we always, probably when we got in a fight our freshman year in an NCAA play, now that NCAA is coming out, he had the council upstairs. We were in the same dorm, different freshman year, you're brought into the mix at Notre Dame, so you're not gonna have a football roommate. So like me, I was excited because I'm like, all right, this is Notre Dame. I'll get a kid that can afford a TV because I certainly can't afford a TV. I'll get somebody that will probably be clean and organized and a high achiever, and then I get roomed with a hockey player that like 2 years later already has like 6 DUIs on campus. Right. Our centerpiece of the room was a CCM bag. Just dirt, just he never finished a protein bar, so just like there was a rodent infestation halfway through the year, so I would get out of there every chance I got. Like, I'll sleep here, but I'm not. There ain't gonna be much time spent here. So we went up. It's a heated NCAA game, PlayStation, like most of them are. I play with Miami, the U. I forgot who he would play with, so I would either throw it up to Shockey or Kellen Winslow on a deep crosser route, send everyone deep and hit a deep tight end crosser route. This was my offense. I would maybe run like 3 plays. This would be my third down. This would be my 2 minute. This was the majority of my offense was all verts with the tight end going across. So I hit him late on like a last second touchdown. I'm freaking out. We look at each other. I have no other reaction than to slap him across the face for whatever reason. So I slap him across the face, and then I know I've done wrong, so I'm not fighting back. And then he mounts me. We're wrestling. His roommate comes in at that point. We're mid, fucking like two teenage brothers in a dorm room, straight up. Shirts being ripped off, hockey, all, everything but punches happening. Because he's a gifted. He wrestled back in the day, so it ain't like he doesn't have good grappling. Because the other one in the mix was Trevor Laws, who was for the most part the number one ranked heavyweight wrestler in the country. So like at random parties, you would see everyone else, and then you'd see us three taking bouts of who was grappling, who was going live goes in the grass.
I can think of things that I'd rather do than get into a wrestling match with Tom Zbikowski.
Right? It's just
Hard
it was
pass.
all the builds because one's a heavyweight, super athletic, one's super tall and long, and then there's me. So we all had our strengths. We all had most of them were stalemates. Like there really was um, passionate live goes that were all in good fun.
That's incredible. I hate to keep harping on the negative moments of your career, but the '06 Sugar Bowl with Jamarcus Russell, how blown away were you by him? Because I remember like people knew about Jamarcus Russell at the time, but that felt like such a coming out party for him, and ultimately played a big part in him becoming the number one overall
Yeah.
pick.
I try to block that memory out of my game. I enjoy out of my that game out of my memory.
Fair.
Um, and Bourbon Street had a lot to do with that too. So I don't. There wasn't much. There's not much effort I have to do to not remember that game because I don't really remember much of that trip to begin with.
Okay, that's
But
fair.
boy, is
That's
that food! Boy, the hurricanes and is the food good down there.
second to none.
But they came ready to play. The year before we were um, no going out. We were a little too tight for the Fiesta Bowl, and then we were way too loose for the Sugar Bowl. It's just how it was.
You were
We
just
learned,
trying.
we tried to learn from the Fiesta Bowl results because we know that they were out early in the week. They enjoyed their trip. We were on lockdown. It was too militant for, it didn't need to be like that. And it probably needed to be a little tighter for Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Like it needed to be a little bit. I think we're just a young coach that was trying to figure out what to do in bowl season, which is why when you look at all the turnover, the people that do well in bowl games are people that have had some stability in the program because they've learned from a mistake or they know, all right, do we do 2 days during this time? Do we do one a days? Do we give them a week off? What's the recipe for having the best bowl game? It's not easy, because you're not playing. You're off for a month. It's not like you're playing. You don't have any games for a month and then you're playing again. Do you go super basic? Do you give them throw everything that they haven't seen? What's the recipe for winning a bowl game? So I can't really blame, Charlie for that was a team, that was a leadership failure, not a coach's failure. Because as a leader of that team, I shouldn't have been the one that's on Bourbon Street till the last second before getting a po' boy at 1:55 as bed checks at 2 o'clock or whatever.
To be fair, Jim McMahon was legendarily out and about before the Super
Right,
Bowl '85. You're just trying to embrace your inner Jim
right. I
McMahon.
know. I grew up with that too. And here's the thing too. You hear those stories. Those guys were having a few beers. I don't think they were doing the stupid shit. They were out and about socializing, having a good time. Having a good time. Where how college goes. It's competition for who can consume the most, not who can have the best time.
Can we talk boxing?
Yeah, love it.
How much did it frustrate you that Ty Willingham didn't let you try and box in the Olympics in '04?
Um, I should have probably presented it to him a little bit better that I wanted to do it because when I brought it up, he had really didn't know that I wanted to fight in the Olympics. Um, And at that point, I think I was just getting over like the homesickness of leaving for college and, all right, we're not playing quarterback anymore. Like that, I really wanted to um, play a lot right after the freshman season. So really, that whole off season, I wouldn't have been a 4 year starter if I would have been fighting in the Olympics. Um, and just like my pro debut in Madison Square Garden kind of took me away from football for a little bit, I'm assuming that fighting in the Olympics would have done the same, just because boxing was my first love, and um, every time I do it, I remember how much I love it. So it's always been a tough balancing act. I wish I would have just given up on boxing and just used it as a training tool and not really kept the competitive side of it. It would have helped my football career in the long run.
It's interesting to hear you say that. And by the way, definitely remember pooling together $50 to watch that fight, and then you knock that
Yeah,
guy out in 49 seconds after he comes out with the Ohio State jersey. Just all time moment. That was just. I have buddies to this day that are still like, yeah, can we get our money back for that? Because
right.
that was 1 minute. The buildup was great though.
Like we say in that business, we don't get paid hourly. So let's get it done with.
That you
Get paid
definitely
the
did.
same. Get paid the same whether it's 10 seconds or whether it's 45 minutes. So might as well make it as quick as possible.
Exactly, exactly. Could you have done like if that had been an option for you though, like an NIL was a thing? Could you have done something a little bit Jake Paulish with the Notre Dame platform that you had at the time, and like kind of gone up the ranks and like got scheduled some big time fights at the time? If it was just, hey, this is what we're gonna do this in May or something like that, or June, could you have done something like that if there had been the financial incentive instead of you can't really do this while you're juggling football because it just from a you can't really monetize it in the way that obviously you could now.
Right. Um. Yeah, I'm assuming my bank account would look a whole lot different if NIL was how it is now. Especially just even at Notre Dame, the amount of jerseys and the stuff that was going on that was sold of mine, I'm assuming would be a lot different. But I try not to think about that because that's just, man, it ain't ever gonna go on my bank account. So what's the point of trying to think of what could have been or what should have been? What I know is that it was a great experience for me and I enjoyed it. So I mean, it's keeps you hungry. I don't know how good it is for the young athletes now, anyways, to be getting paid. I know there's the Chef Boyardee's at nighttime. You know, like you can't be making that type of money, and that's what we're living on because we're just, man, we ain't got, our parents were expecting you to be able to foot the bill, not have them, that's kind of what is promised to you. But um, 'cause I don't know how much, it made you hungry to make it to the NFL. Made you really hungry to make it to the NFL. I don't know how hungry these guys are, not necessarily to make it to the NFL, but be great. Everyone wants to make it to the NFL. They're going to make it to the NFL and then be done after about 6 months. Just how it is. And those ones that are hungry are the ones that make it. Because the talent's all going to be the same. You're not going to be more talented than anyone there.
If it's you have interesting perspective now looking back on all the different things that you've done. You talk about how you would have just not boxed these as a training tool. If I could have given you a crystal ball 17, even more than that, let's go back to like circa 2002 or something like that, back when you're 17 years old and all these different places are telling you you can do all these different things, and you know what you know now, what would you have maybe done differently outside of just kind of treating boxing as more of a training tool?
Um, right. So that's an inch. Either played quarterback and finished up my college career and then gone right into professional boxing, or um, use it as a training tool and put all put all my focus into football and school more into football in school than just football and boxing. And by school, I mean the networking and really having a plan for. Um, I never really had much thought of after boxing or after football, like to make it to where I made it. You got to be fully engaged in what that world is.
Tom, this has been great. Really appreciate you doing this. I want to get you out of here with 5 rapid fire questions, just 5 questions. First thing that comes to mind. Does that work for you?
Perfect.
All right. First one is an obvious one. What's your go to Portillo's order when you're back in the Chicago area?
Um, oh man, it depends on whether I want a Polish, a Maxwell Polish, or a big beef dipped, sweet and hot with sometimes mozzarella. Cheese fries, I always get the large cheese fry.
That's a good
I like their
order.
tamales. I get a bundle of tamales sometimes. I gotta get their tamales.
I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah, I
Portillo's
get
does
the tamales.
tamales?
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez. Okay.
They're like the micro. They're the steamed ones that are coming. The cheap. They're not like the real tamales, but I love them. Tasty.
Portillo's can do no wrong. That's what I always say.
No, and they do it in little bunches, so they give you like four little ones, not the two, not two big ones.
All right. I'm going to have to try that. One word to
And a
this.
chocolate cake. I had chocolate cake. My bad. A slice of chocolate cake.
That's a given. I
That's
assume
all right.
it's chocolate shake or a cake shake, one of the
All
two
right.
or both. Yeah, that's that.
I
That's
didn't
that.
really like the cake shake. I don't know what it is. I don't really like the cake shake.
It's a lot. It's
Right.
much.
It's too
Yeah, it's intense, definitely. Okay, one word to describe your thoughts on targeting.
bogus.
There it is. That's all I needed.
Lame. Lame.
That's several words. That's okay.
Soft. Soft. Weak.
Yeah, I'm sure you got some
Bring
some more
back Wilbur.
colorful.
Bring back Wilbur Marshall hits.
There you go. Gosh, those are iconic. Speaking of
He's
the
my
'85
favorite, dude.
Bears,
He's my favorite. He's my favorite linebacker.
yeah, absolute best man. And literally everything would be targeting now. Looking back
Ah, he
on
would.
all of those,
Man,
it's
he would. Dude, he really he almost killed the one dude.
yeah,
The quarterback from the Lions.
true. Yeah, still the all-time NFL films decleater is that clip.
It's gotta be. It's got to be.
Yeah.
He hits so hard.
Okay, speaking of decleaters, guys who'd be targeting, guys would be called for targeting every 2 seconds. True or false? You spent time with him at the Ravens. True or false? Ed Reed would deliver the "I'm hurt, dog" speech before every Ravens playoff game.
Yeah, false.
No, that's a
I
bummer.
know. Someone else would probably say it. Someone else on the team, but no, it was. He only when he spoke up, man, you knew something needed to be done. He left it like that. He was just led by example, and if he needed to say something, you needed to get your shit right.
Yeah, always came off that way. Okay,
Yeah, he
what was your favorite thing to do on a football field? Because I feel like we've been trending. It's got to be something quarterback related. I would assume, right?
actually one of the favorite things I got into was the front line at kickoff return because it's so damn hard. I got so good at it that um, unless you're in the know, you don't understand that like you're going out for opening kickoff as a hooligan or a bully or whatever it is that I like going to the other teams. I like being that frontline guy that had to go to the other team's sideline and to completely embarrass whoever it was that they were sending down on kickoff. Um, that became because I was so bad at it in college. Like I wanted no piece of it in college. Um, but punt return, and like a pick six, an interception, pick six, punt return for a touchdown. All are they're game changing plays. Like they really change the outcome of a play. A quarterback throwing a touchdown pass it happens. But any of
Okay.
those.
Last, all good answers and all things that you definitely did plenty of times in your career. Last one for you. Who do you dislike more, USC or Prospect High?
Prospect.
That's the answer.
Yeah, I had a lot more. I had a lot of respect for USC. Like they were uh, really were the best of the. Like they were the most. They were more talented than us. Like Prospect wasn't more talented than us. They just were better coached than us, but they weren't better talented than us.
I know that 6 people listening to this might understand that reference, but for those that want to go down the rabbit hole of Buffalo Grove Prospect High School, we don't need to go into that how that played out and everything. But yeah, just know that the
Well, it's
hate
like,
is
what are the
still felt.
chances of them that they have state championship caliber teams the same time that Buffalo Grove has, and then don't have? I guess they've been pretty good though since then, but nothing like what it was.
Nothing like
And they
what it
were doing
was.
it with like 40 guys. Like Patrica was a hell of a coach. I don't think people understand how good of a coach he was. He had a great run at Palatine, a lot of talent at Palatine, and then had that defense keyed up to what we were doing. I mean, there was first time we played them, they were calling my huddle plays at the line of scrimmage. Like they weren't. You're right.
That
They
doesn't
weren't
seem
calling.
legal.
No, they weren't calling like power right. They were really calling the huddle plays that are calling in the huddle.
Okay, so that just tells me Prospect was cheating, and I'm just going to go with that for the rest of my
When
existence.
you run
That
the same offense for 15 years, like people are gonna know what those offensive plays are.
okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Good point. Okay. Really appreciate this, man. Like I said,
Yeah.
this
No.
has
Thanks for
been
having me on. Thanks for having me
absolute
on.
treat. Best of luck with everything you got going at Brown, man.
Appreciate you.